Most graduates turn up to their interview thinking they're prepared. They've had a look at the company's website, they've had a look at the hiring manager, they've done their research. But most graduates walk away having lost the opportunity to work at the highest potential company, because the top 10% follow the process in this video for preparation for interview. Here is what the top 10% of graduates do to prepare for their first interview. The first thing is to heavily research the industry that the company operates in. So if it's an investment banking firm, research investment banking. If it's private equity, research private equity. The main tool that I think gives you the biggest amount of leverage above everyone else is if you can connect with people that are already in that industry. Ideally, you'd like them to be A players and high performers because they're going to give you a better insight. But connecting with anybody, because you may not be able to measure who's good or who's bad, in that industry that can give you perspective on what it's like and what their recommendations would be. One of the big frustrations of people that come into Raw Selection and they know somebody, they've got a cousin, an uncle, a brother, a sister that works in recruitment, and the first thing we ask them is, oh, what did you ask about them? And they go, nothing. Or they go, yeah, I had a brief chat with them. What do they do in it? And they're like, I don't know. Find out, because they're interested in measuring you on your level of intrigue. They're measuring on your basis of how serious are you about getting into this industry? The very best graduates do a ton of research about the industries they're going into. The reason you're doing this whole video course at the moment is because you want to get the best possible role. And you've got to do exactly the same as you're working on your skill set to be able to get the best possible role to get to 80K in 2 years. You've got to do the same with the research of the industry and understanding exactly what it's like to work in that industry and referencing whoever you speak to, what exactly they do in the industry, who they work for, the industries that they play in, the specifics of their role and what they do. You can obviously use what everyone else is going to use if you haven't got a point of contact. You can do proactive outreach, and I recommend that. You can ask university lecturers, careers advisors who they might know. You never know, they might know somebody. If you don't have those options, and even if you do have those options, do this as well, is obviously using ChatGPT, obviously using Google search, obviously using companies' websites, and doing the research on as many companies within that industry as you possibly can. You're watching this because you want to go from graduates to 80K, and you want to be the best version of you. I'm going to drop in here that Raw Selection is hiring people just like you, who will finish courses like this, who work hard and learn fast. I would encourage you to consider a career in executive search. It has given me a fantastic life, as well as many others here in the business, and of course, within the executive search industry. There is a link below, give it a click, and let's connect and see if the executive search industry and Raw Selection is the right next step for you. Now, point 2 is you're going to do exactly the same playbook within that company. Now, the likelihood of you knowing somebody within that company, unless it's come through a shared contact and connection, if you are using somebody in the business to obviously make that introduction, whether it be an internal talent person or a hiring manager, you could ask them questions. It's probably not the right thing to do unless there's a good relationship there. Internal talent people, I'd say probably more likely if you can ask them, hey, tell me more about the company, get this and this. You should be doing that in the first interview stage. That's unlikely you're going to have that from a first interview perspective. But what I'd like you to do here, and what the best graduates do, is that they research the hell out of that business. They look at everything from who the founder, who the CEO is, who the senior management team is, who the main person from a hiring manager perspective, if you know who that's going to be, all about when the company was founded, background information on the business. And what I would recommend that you do is don't just print that out, write it down in a book and take it with you, because there's no need to have a huge amount of pressure that says, hey, what research have you done on us? Then you can go, I've done an absolute ton. Because also what that research will give you is the questions that you want to ask about them. One of the great questions somebody came in and asked us, which is a challenging question, is we started with a video series for the journey to 10 million for Raw Selection. That's our goal. That's where we want to get to in that initial milestone. And one of the guys came in and said, why haven't you put a date to the journey to 10 million? And it immediately makes you think, okay, this person's done their research. They're asking questions around the research they've done. And that's what I'd like you to do, is to do the research and then build the questions that you want based on the research of the people and the company. And those questions are not going to be basic ones. They're not going to be, oh, what was it like founding the business? It could be, what was it like founding a business in 2017? It's based on the goals and things that you want from your career. I've seen that the business promotes the graduate to 80K scheme. The last person who got to that level, tell me about what they had to do in order to do it. What's the top 3 things you'd recommend? I've seen that the business is all around X, Y, and Z. I've seen that your values are this, this, and this. How can you demonstrate to me what that value of X means? That's a really important factor for me. Self-development is really important for me. What do you guys do to encourage self-development within your business? And thinking about the criteria that you want and holding them to the highest standard and then giving them the hard questions on the back of it. When you're researching the company, you will understand exactly what they do, the customers that they serve, how they position themselves, what their unique selling points are. If you can't understand those questions from the website, those are probably good questions you need to ask. What I'd recommend is that when you've pulled that information, you pull 3 specific things, because otherwise you're going to have an absolute 17 pages of notes here. Pull 3 specific things out from that, make a note on all of them, and then just pull your 3 specific things and have it set separate on that page. So if you get asked a question about the business, you can say, oh, I did a load of research into you. There was 3 specific things here that I noted that really fit with me and what I'm looking for. The other thing I'd start to look at is quite a few variables with reviews, credibility, traction, and just generally kind of assessing the business. You've got things like Google reviews that you can begin to look at. You've got things like Glassdoor that you can also look at, albeit I would reference that Glassdoor, some of the best companies in the world have bad Glassdoor ratings because they're the hardest to work for, they're the highest bar, etc. But also some of the worst companies to work for have the worst Glassdoor ratings. So I'd be very mindful, and there is a lot of manipulation there, but it gives you a sense. If there's a common theme in there, you're going to be able to go, okay, there's a common theme of feedback of X, Y, and Z. Can you tell me about it? There's a common theme of X, Y, and Z in your business. I've seen this from this, this, and this. I've seen that your Google reviews are typically 2.2. There's 5,000 Google reviews on there. What have you done recently to try and fix that? And it gives you an indication how good the business is, how good they answer those questions, and when you put them under pressure. Another one, of course, is socials. So you'll see what they post out on socials, how they communicate, what they present, how they promote their people, if they promote their people, if it's just noise and nonsense, what the CEO, founder, managers post on LinkedIn to give you an insight as to what they're trying to do. If it's all silence, maybe that's not a channel that they use and maybe they don't need to, but it gives you a kind of indication of the kind of personality. Is it all really corporate type posts? Is it all, oh, we did this and did that? Is there, some personal posts and some personal perspectives that gives you an indication? It's not that there's a right or wrong here, it just gives you an insight as to the kind of company that potentially you'll be working for, and it gives you an insight before you go into the interview. You can also learn some things about people and the business before you jump into that interview, so you might have some nuggets to share. Oh, I saw this, I saw that. All really great opportunities to demonstrate you've done a ton of research. People love people who take things seriously and do tons of research. So lastly, I'd be looking into, and I mentioned this earlier, making sure that you understand about the CEO, the founder, the owner, managing partner, whatever job title they put on themselves, whether it be private equity, investment banking. Now, if it's a really big corporate business, getting some insight to them is going to be important. If the smaller the business, the more you've done the research on them, the more that helps you with that effect. But then also researching the interviewers, researching the hiring manager if you know who it is, and getting really good perspectives on their LinkedIn, their social pages, what they post, what they reference in them in the website, if it's referenced in the About and Team Us, and just building a better picture about who they are. So that when you go in, you can show, oh yeah, I did some research on this. It's all to refer back to. It's all to go, yes, I've done this. So you're trying to catch as many opportunities that you can demonstrate that you've done the hard work already and that you're the kind of person that they should hire. And then lastly, for your preparation, you're going to create 4 stories. I want you to create 2 resilient-based stories and 2 achievement-based stories. Your resilient stories are going to show genuine ownership, genuine bounce back, and how you kept spirit and fighting back. And your achievement stories are going to show how you genuinely won, what you did about winning, and what you learned from winning. So as an example, I'm going to give you this from a raw selection perspective. If I was interviewing with raw selection assessing for the business, this is what I would share when they asked me the question, what do you know about raw selection? Identify that raw selection is an executive search firm, that you place chief executives, CFOs, COOs, and other CXO positions into private equity-backed companies, predominantly focused across Europe and North America. I've seen that you have specialist industries that you operate in, such as services, such as manufacturing, such as aerospace and defense, and consumer retail. I've seen some of the case studies that you worked on with guys like Abri, Drum Capital, Middle Ground Capital, and the CXO positions you've completed with them. What I then want you to do is to finish with a statement that links that into what you're looking for, that demonstrates their values. So I noticed from the research I've done of looking at social media channels, there's a clear obsession and drive, and use the words that they use in the post, a clear obsession and drive around people and development and improvement. And coupled with that, Alex talks a lot about is high standards, hiring for the top 15%, being at the top of the industry. That is one of the things that really attracted to me to this. I don't want to be average. I want to be the best I can possibly be, and I want to work around people. And as Alex has referenced in a lot of his messaging in LinkedIn, is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's that level of detailed answer that is just, no one's going to ask you questions about how much research you've done, what you've researched on the business. So you're going to go, yeah, okay, fine, tick that off. Has the person done research? Yes, to an exceptional level. We're not going to go back and cover that. They've already done it. You're just trying to get those elements covered off so that you can focus on assessing the business, but you can also focus on selling yourself. And then I want you to finish that with a link back to the hiring manager. So I was intrigued based on my research. I've seen, John, that you've been in the business for 4 years now. What is it that keeps you at the business? And question number 2, focus something around the company. So I saw that Royal Selection has a money back guarantee. Aside from that, how do you differentiate from your competition? What you're looking here with questions is to kind of A, give them an easy question that gets perspective and culture, and B is a question that gives them a little bit of, hey, how much are you thinking about how you're trying to grow the business, what you're trying to do, and who you're working against the competition? Your ability to measure them on how good the answers are, obviously from all the interviews that you've done, the people with the best answers are going to be the best companies to work for. Just as a reference when you're going through the interview process. Now, most companies don't know this, but they do look for it. The highest performing businesses look for these, but they may not be able to communicate to you that they are. But this is what they look for. The 2 clear indicators for likelihood of high performance is, number 1, how hard will this person work in the business? And number 2 is, how quickly will they learn our business, our way, and how we operate? Companies want to tell you once, teach you once, and you execute. And what you're trying to do in this interview is demonstrate that you will work incredibly hard and that you will learn incredibly fast. So I talked throughout this about the preparation of questions. I believe that we are measured more on the questions we ask than the answers we give to questions. Just as a word of warning here, most graduates ask the same questions and they sound exactly the same. And interviews become bored around that. Now, I've given you the tools already from the research perspective, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of questions here that maybe you can leverage in your interviews to differentiate yourself from the rest of your competition and your fellow graduates. What separates your top performers from the middle 50%? What does great look like for me if I'm hired in the first 30, 60, or 90 days? What are the metrics that you review weekly on people's performance? And how do I go about overachieving them? How do you coach people day to day to become the best version of themselves? What does £80,000 on target earnings within 2 years require from an input and output and obviously behaviors? Within your business, what does career progression look like for the highest performers within the business? Now, there is questions, of course, that I believe you should avoid because the highest performing businesses will cross you out for it. The thing that I would say here is that if these things are truly important for you, it may be that the career that you're looking at, unless you are really, really super smart, that this might not be the route for you. So what I would do is I would avoid these questions in an early phase. Firstly is asking anything around working hours. It means that what you're kind of doing is you're kind of prioritizing not getting to 80K, not getting the fastest career progression, and kind of an indication that I need a work-life balance. If that's really important for you, a lot of these high-performing businesses, if you're going to work in investment banking, executive search, private equity, work-life balance isn't a key consideration until you work up through and learn the business. And then there is quite a bit of work-life balance once you've hit the ceiling of where you want to be, which if I've just said that and that's really annoyed you, chances are work-life balance balance isn't going to be a consideration for you moving through your career. Moving through your career is your main consideration. I would also not ask questions around remote working or holidays or intangibles that don't link to how you're progressing, developing, and moving forward. This is your first role in a career. You have a degree which is incredibly valuable, but unfortunately it doesn't teach you how to do the work that you want to do. And money moves at speed and moves fast. And there's a ton of other graduates out there that are going to demonstrate that they'll work harder, that they'll learn faster, they'll put more hours in, and that's typically the people that tend to win. There's a great quote which is well bounded around by lots of different people. Matt Armstrong has it on his YouTube channel. If you follow him with his rebuilds of cards, hard work beats talent. And that, for a lot of us, is absolutely true. You can obviously ask these questions later, and they are likely important, and you can go through it. But I'd start to ask those questions towards the end and later stages, once you've proven yourself and you're a leading candidate, rather than at the beginning phase. From this module, you now know how to prepare for your interview. Within Module 4, we're going to cover how to answer questions and also how to prepare for the most common questions you will get in an interview. At Raw Selection, we are always hiring for the highest potential graduates to join our business and be our next 80K earner within 2 years. For more information and to explore a career at Raw Selection, reach out to us. In the description, there's our email address, but it's careers@raw-selection.com.